The birds are singing, and the sun is coaxing us to come out and enjoy a tour to some special places where one can reflect and draw strength for the days ahead. There's no better place for enjoying a leisurely stroll than here in Bristol Village. Let's meet at the Glen Center with the old coots for a cup of coffee before our stop at the Hummingbird Garden. Hidden inside the Glen Center is an atrium, which is an open-air garden area surrounded by the walking track. Planned by Bristol Village founder John Glenn, it was a lovely area, but as it matured, it began to suffer from neglect as English ivy took over while weeds invaded the paths and grassy areas. Norma Beaupre, a resident with another vision for the atrium, came forward several years ago with the idea of creating a hummingbird garden. Norma put up hummingbird feeders after clearing the ivy and weeds to make room for plants and flowers and attract hummingbirds. Hanging baskets with colorful annuals were added, and although it's once again an attractive place to relax on a bench under the pergola with native honeysuckle growing over it, it is still a project in progress. Renovation continues as a sprinkling system has been added, along with concrete paths installed that can accommodate walkers and wheelchairs. Visitors are welcome whenever the Glen Center is open. Norma, along with her committee of volunteers, keeps things up to date in the Hummingbird Garden. Before you leave the Glen Center, check out the bulletin board by the multi-purpose room. Elisa and Sandy Sondergelt regularly take photos of blooming plants and wildlife in the Cooper Wildflower Woods, and they post them on this bulletin board. And sometimes they're posted also on BVTV, our local cable channel. We will now stroll along the blacktop path by Bristol Court toward an activity area encompassing a tennis court, a dog park, and a children's play area for the enjoyment of the residents. Visitors are encouraged to rest at the gazebo to people watch or just reflect. Where the sidewalk stops at the end of Windy Lane, another pergola beckons one to enter the Cooper Wildflower Woods. Spring is the prettiest time to visit the Cooper Wildflower Woods. The flowering redbud and dogwood trees are always a welcoming sight as they burst into bloom. Snowdrops, aconite, and Lenten roses have already bloomed early in the spring. Among other flowers that have bloomed or getting ready to bloom are daffodils, Virginia bluebells, bloodroot, trillium, violets, and other spring blooming wildflowers. Trails through the woods are blacktopped and wide enough for wheelchairs. The Wildflower Woods was named for resident Mary Cooper, who visualized a woodland sanctuary constructed over an old Bristol Village dump that was filled with broken appliances and other trash. She, along with the Bristol Village Horticulture Club, converted that dump into the woods that today is enjoyed by all. What a wonderful legacy they left. A little story about Mary. By now, when these photos were taken, she was in assisted living. She got wind that a group of weed warriors were going to work that day in the wildflower woods. Well, she managed to escape by herself from assisted living in her wheelchair, obviously not a motorized one. She made it all the way to the Cooper Wildflower Woods using her feet to propel the wheelchair. And she reflected on the many years that she spent coming to the Wildflower Woods every day, keeping things up to date and introducing new wildflowers. What a lovely legacy she's left for us. Our weed warriors, a small group of resident volunteers, gather weekly, April through October, to maintain the woods. But residents who are friends of the Cooper Wildflower Woods have helped in many ways through donations to the Bristol Foundation designated for the woods or for specific projects. An anonymous donor was responsible for blacktopping the paths, making the woods handicapped accessible. Others have used their talents to replace rotting structures such as the pergolas at the front and back entrances and the rail fence at the front, as well as build a new storage shed. In the lower left photo, You see a group of weed warriors on a field trip to purchase new plants. As we leave the Cooper Wildflower Woods through the back pergola, we will cross the path and we are into the Prairie Patch, our newest jewel created in 2022 by our prairie specialist, Kara Waters. Eventually, we hope our prairie patch will look like this, but patience is needed for it to mature. Ohio had prairies because 4,000 to 6,000 years ago there was a long dry period. Also, Native Americans burned these areas to keep them grasslands so the animals they hunted, like deer and buffalo, could graze. Once established, our prairie habitat will sustain many insects, butterflies, and birds. The scarecrows that you saw there last fall were guarding the newly sown seeds after our weed warriors and RV volunteers had spent many hard hours cleaning and preparing the soil. Look at our RV volunteer from last summer standing under the large oak tree. The tree is gone, a victim of the high winds that raged through Pike County in March. This is how our prairie patch looked on March 28, 2023. While it was distressing to lose our huge old oak tree, our prairie patch will enjoy more sunlight. At the corner of Ramble and Robin Roads is a green area with 4 concrete paths lined by trees that merge into a circle with benches. This is Ramble Grove Park, although no sign or marking identifies it. Take a few minutes to rest on the benches at the Memory Circle, which is dedicated to those who have served to protect our freedoms, both military and civilian endeavors. Soon, begonias and geraniums will surround the large Ohio Erie Canal boulders to complete the small but lovely garden. Those big sandstone blocks are typical of the sandstone blocks that were used when they built the Ohio Erie Canal, and they've been used throughout the village as part of the landscaping. This park is tended by Bill and Sharon Webb, who donated it in celebration of their 50th wedding anniversary. Tranquility Park, another green area, is bounded on all sides by 7th Street, Wendy Lane, Leisure Lane, and Robin Road. It is accessed by paths from each street marked by the large canal blocks. This park is unique not only for the benches donated and trees planted in memory or honor of loved ones, but for the labyrinth in the park, which begins near the Wendy Lane entrance. A labyrinth is a spiritual tool, a path of prayer, a walking meditation, or a place to experience your deeper awareness. Tranquility Park Labyrinth was dedicated in memory of Frederick C. Michelson in 2009, one of the visionaries who brought the labyrinth to fruition with Otto Zing and his expertise and knowledge of labyrinth design. It is constructed to accommodate people with walkers and wheelchairs. Words etched on the dedication plaque tell it all. Reflect on your problems of today. Follow the path at your own pace. Listen to your inner self. Find your peace at the center. Begin the journey outward. Before leaving, pause and give thanks. One of the more popular attractions at Bristol Village is the Scioto Valley Railroad. While the Garden Railroad layout may be enjoyed at any time, members of the Scioto Valley Railroad Club usually operate the trains on Monday afternoons. The original Garden Railroad was dismantled in 2012 after being overtaken by vegetation dislodging the tracks. Today, G-gauge model trains wind in and out through miniature plants and buildings on a raised layout. This was completed in 2013. Two plaques recognize the contributions and donations from residents and staff. One reads, Vonnie Knoll, in loving memory and recognition of her untiring efforts to develop and nurture the Garden Railroad. The other says, Garden Railroad made possible by gifts to the Bristol Village Foundation from residents and staff, and it's dated July of 2013. That's Vonnie in the red, along with some volunteers looking over the Garden Railroad. Our resident weed warriors and RV volunteers work on the railroad garden once a week, from April through the fall months. The outdoor layout was expanded in 2018, with track constructed between the depot and the Railroad Museum, thanks to Ken and Marilyn Beilstein, who brought their garden railroad from Vermont and donated it to the Scioto River Valley Railroad Club. The depot at 339 Robin Road houses layouts for other model train gauges, while the Railroad Museum at 709 Leisure Lane is a trip back in time when railroads were in their heyday. We'll now head back towards the Glen Center along the paved trails past the fountain at Wendy and Fifth. If this picture looks different, the greenery has been replaced with river rock, and the fountain landscape will soon be adorned with large containers of blooming annuals. Adjacent to the Glen Center is the Walk of Life. Meander down the red brooks honoring or memorializing the lives of loved ones. Names and messages are etched on bricks and can be added any time in the future. It was established in 2020 by Brenda Owens in the memory of her husband Bob, a talented musician. The peaceful garden area along the Walk of Life is dedicated to the many musicians who have brought music to our ears and songs to our hearts. A plaque reminds us that music speaks what cannot be expressed, soothes the mind and gives it rest, heals the heart and makes it whole, flows from the heavens to the soul. A bench within the garden invites you to relax and cherish your memories. Just beyond the Walk of Life is a picnic area at the Canal Pavilion, which was created to portray the history of the Ohio Erie Canal. The original Ohio Erie Canal passed along the north edge of the Bristol Village campus. And for village golfers, the putting green is nearby. Here are some of our residents enjoying it just a few years ago. As we head for the RV park, we'll make a short stop at the Milligan Pavilion, our wonderful, roomy new shelter house completed with outdoor kitchen. It was made possible by a large gift to the Bristol Village Foundation by Grover Milligan to be used for the enjoyment of the residents. Between the Milligan Pavilion and the RV park are the Crop Core Gardens, where our residents can have a 25 by 50-foot plot to grow vegetables and flowers. It is also possible to get a partial plot if you don't want one that large. Extra produce is placed on a table by the bank in the Glen Center for anyone to enjoy. More produce also goes to the court. Jason Brunk, a former resident, was in charge of the gardens for a number of years. Even though he was legally blind and unable to drive, he rode his bike every day from Robin Road to the gardens. This plaque at the gardens was placed in memory of Jason. Garden Party. The garden veggies were planning a party. The tomato said, "Should we invite the mushroom?" The lettuce scratched her head. The potato said he couldn't see it. The corn wouldn't hear of it. But the down-to-earth carrot said, "Yes, we should." He is a fungi. By Jason W. Brunk, Jr., Doctor of Education, 11/10/1923 till 9/27/2019. The RVers have come from all over the United States, and in exchange for being able to park their vehicles here, hooked up to water, electric, and sewer, they work our gardens and green areas for 20 hours a week, as well as helping disabled residents with their front flower beds. Some are available to do contract gardening for those interested. There are also RV parking areas for many of the residents who have their own RVs. And we've had a number of residents start out by being full-time RVers and then migrate to part-time RVers with a place here to park their RVs with a dumping station. And some full-time RVers have gradually moved into Bristol Village. Others have a home base, spending part of the year at home and part of the year as work campers. Ruth and Glenn Caton came to Bristol Village as volunteers and liked us so much that they went back to Fort Worth, Texas, sold their house, and moved to Bristol Village full time. Over the years, many residents have been involved with the care of the gardens and green areas of Bristol Village campus. Eleanor Fujita, Dick and Diane Demlow, Alicia and Sandy Sondergelt, and Eugil Rodbertson are among those still here that worked alongside Mary Cooper at the very beginning of the Cooper Wildflower Woods. Many thanks to all our residents who have helped in the past. It's because of your work that we have such a lovely campus today. Our 2023 Weed Warriors will carry on where you left off. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of Bristol Village. To learn more about Bristol Village, open your web browser and enter www.bvres.org. That's for Bristol Village Residents, bvres.org. This will open websites that will allow you to explore more of Bristol Village in detail. For example, you can look at the campus map, and you can visit many of the places you saw in this tour. Other things to explore in our Bristol Village Residents webpage is the Computer Club, where we have a schoolhouse and lots of tutorials and things available. We have a Sight and Sound group that produces videos such as this one, and there's a web page that shows a Sight and Sound group. We collected a lot of videos explaining details of what's going on at Bristol Village, and those are available through our web page. We have a sampler here of different enrichment hour programs. Every week we have a cultural experience with a resident organized enrichment hour. Every Sunday evening we have a Vespers. Please take some time to visit us here at Bristol Village. Visitors are always welcome, and the residents here are happy to show off what we consider the best retirement secret in the country.